Yeah, I'm Gill Stringer and I'm 58 years old and I am a complementary therapist. I mostly do reflexology.
What was your experience like going through the menopause?
It was very difficult. First of all, there's what you call perimenopause, and because I'm a complementary therapist, I see an awful lot of women going through that stage. So yeah, I know it's not the same for any two women. It's always different. Mine was particularly difficult for about 2 years before I actually stopped having periods. So that's the 2 years when my life was quite difficult and it was hard to work.
How did it affect your work?
Well, mostly because periods for me became very close together. So sometimes I was going month to month without any break. A lot of flooding and a lot of bleeding, which was difficult. You know, it's one of those things, you stand up and things happen and it's embarrassing. Luckily, although I have to sit down and work hour to hour, it was okay because I could sort of wear the same coloured trousers and nip out and come back again and manage it. And luckily most of my clients are women and a lot of those were quite understanding. It became more difficult when you're working with men and people who don't understand what it is to go through those difficult stages of a menopause. What I was just describing is the perimenopause, the time before you actually sort of start to get nearer to when it finishes. So what happened from then is that the periods started getting longer and further apart, so maybe missing sometimes, and that went on for about 9 months for me. During that time, yes, I had the hot sweats. Again, being a complementary therapist, it wasn't something I wanted to do to have HRT. It's not something I particularly favour. And so I went down the supplement route and took some things to help. There's a couple of very good supplements that you can take to help to reduce the night sweats, which are horrible. They're all down this area. It's not very nice. And then that does help though. So I managed it with supplements really, and watching my diet. Things like alcohol completely went. Certain things like that do change what you can eat, what you can drink. You can tolerate things less during that part of your menopause.
Do you ever feel like it affected your work at all?
It did on days because, you know, when it was very, very bad, in those perimenopausal days when I was having flooding and problems like that, I was kind of thinking I don't want to book too many clients in at that time because I might be in that stage of my cycle, and, you know, I would lose money because when you work for yourself, you don't, if you don't work, you don't earn anything. So yes, it really affected my work at that time. And I was always on edge at that time.
Yeah. Do you think you could have dealt with it in a different career, for instance, an office job or like a more physical job like doing labour?
Well, I've always had heavy periods, so even when I was younger and I was working in an office, because my career's in banking until I was 40 years old, so yeah, I know what it would have been like, and there was even times then that I found it difficult, but you can get through it. But I don't think with what I struggled with during that 2 years of perimenopause that I could have done my work well in an office. It depends how busy. I think if you're customer facing, it's a lot harder than perhaps in an office, because in an office at least you can take yourself off now and again and sort yourself out if you need to, but it's something you have to manage.
Do you think there's enough care around menopause, for instance, like when other women are working? Do you think people are very understanding?
No, I don't, and I hear this from women all the time. I don't think people are very understanding unless they've got some experience, and some people would have gone through it with their mothers. Some people have a sister who's, you know, gone through that or whatever, but unless, it's like anything, unless you've got some knowledge of it, you don't really understand it. I think you get more sympathy and empathy from working with other women, but I don't think men have a clue, to be honest, and that's not their fault, but that's just how it is. And if you've got a male boss and male colleagues, that can be tricky if they see you keep darting out and doing things. They think you're, you know, running away from your work and things like that and spending too long in the ladies and things. It's quite difficult.
Because it's quite a taboo subject to talk about. Like, people don't really talk about it either.
It still is, and again, it's nice being a therapist because women come to me to talk about it, and I think that if everybody had someone that you could go to and discuss it, somebody who'd maybe been through it, it would make life a lot easier, because, you know, everyone has their own issues and own problems within it, both working and if they're, you know, managing elderly relatives and things like that. It comes at a time of your life when actually it's tricky. I equally have people who say, do you know, I don't really understand it because I sailed through it, because, you know, one minute it was there and one minute it wasn't, and I haven't really had anything, bit of mild hot flush now and again during the day, or felt a bit sort of hot and flushy, but that's all they've had. So you can't tell, it really is different for everyone. I think I've just been a bit unlucky.